up, as you can see over there. Although I suppose the wind is blowing towards them. Now, what's quite interesting is yesterday we were discussing how and why the tail is used, and in the interim, I have managed to do a little bit of research into tails. So I'm better equipped to tell you a little bit more about tails than I was yesterday, and so hopefully I can shed some light. So tails are used primarily in takeoff and landing and in slow flight. So tails are spread wide in slow flight, and that gives greater maneuverability. It gives a greater surface area and maneuverability. But as soon as the bird increases the speed of its flight, it needs to reduce the surface area, and that then allows it to make smaller adjustments at higher speeds with less drag. And these birds will obviously need those forked tails, which are so characteristic of very many high-speed aerial predators. There we go, flying away now. Where they'll increase the surface area of their tail by spreading it wide and have those trailing edges, and then decrease it as they're flying at higher and higher speeds. And then as soon as they start to slow down again, they'll fan open their tails. And what would be quite interesting is the birds in your local area is watch what they do with their tails and see if that makes any sense to you, and see if you can see birds, especially the swallows and the martins and the swifts, like we're looking at now, and see at what point, at what speed they'll start to close or open their tail. And I think you'll be quite surprised. I know from a experience I had a couple of years ago watching one of South Africa's fastest flying birds, the alpine swift, playing in some wind currents on the top of a mountain. The wind was absolutely howling, and these birds, I did not know how they were changing direction as fast as what they were doing and not blacking out from the G-forces that they were subjected to, and that they can definitely change direction. Not quite as quickly as what bats can at a slow speed. They definitely need a higher speed to do so, but nonetheless stunning. There we go. We've got a hippo displaying mouth open. His hippo are quite funny things, I must be honest with you. In some days they get active like right in the afternoon. Other days they stay inactive for most of the afternoon. This particular hippo looks like he was having a good old yawn. Does a couple of things. That yawn that you can see them doing is just the display. It's a display that says, look how wide my mouth goes, look how sharp my teeth are, look how big it is, please don't come close to me. But I see young hippo doing it all the time, and I think just like elephants, what happens is that youngsters practice the skills that they're going to be needing at an older age, and all the bluff and bravado that goes with being a youngster, I think, is what they practice. What about big things? Let's see what this hippo does here. In the background, that white blob that you're looking at there is a yellow-billed stork, and then that monster crocodile that you see on the bank over there with its back facing away from us. I mean, that is just absolutely enormous. The stork would reach up to about as big as a chicken, and would probably reach up to your waist, and is dwarfed by this crocodile. It also gives us a very nice shot of how broad the back of a really large crocodile can get. Having tracked these crocodile tracks before, not here, but in the Kruger National Park, but I can tell you that if you were to lie on the back of that crocodile, that you'd battle to put your hands flat on the floor on either side. That is how big that crocodile is. That is truly a giant. Now, James, you wanted to know what is the average yearly growth rate of a crocodile. James, because they are cold-blooded, that is definitely just dependent on the environment that the crocodile finds itself in. So given a perfect temperature for a crocodile, which will be in a range probably between 25 and 30 degrees centigrade or somewhere around there, and yearly temperature and a superabundance of food, meaning that the crocodiles didn't have to expend much energy to get food, they would be able to control their metabolism at the highest rate, and their growth would not stop. Basically, what they'd do is they'd run out of metabolic energy before they run out of the ability to grow. In other words, get old, and their systems basically run out of the ability to process the amount of food needed. Isn't that just the most amazing thing? That given the fact that there's the right temperature and a never-ending supply of food, they absolutely will just keep on growing. And in some areas, in some very special areas, hot water springs, for instance, in Australia and South Africa, crocodiles have reached 2,000 kilograms in weight. Isn't that just the most amazing thing? I had yellow-billed stork. We also learned yesterday is using a very specialized gland it's called a Herbst corpuscle, and it's using their Herbst corpuscles to not only feel but also to taste the water and the environment that it's fishing in at the moment. So can you imagine that the end of a beak, which we all know to be quite hard and bony, has the same functionality as our tongue does? It can touch and it can taste. Isn't that incredible? Now, if we wouldn't mind going to Dusty camera, please. Alice? We've got a beautiful herd of Impala that's come down to share the afternoon with us. And there are some babies inside this herd. Now, unlike South Africa, where you find the Impalas going into rut just once a year, the Impala females will ovulate in May, and they will drop their youngsters 220 days later, around about the end of October into December. And almost all the Impala in the Kruger National Park and at Djuma will do so, synchronized. In Kenya, because of the superabundance of food and the fact that it is warm all year round and it rains all year round, there is no clear rut. Female Impala come into and out of estrus all the time, and there is almost always an influx of baby Impala, and in some years even the Impala will give birth twice. Isn't that just amazing? And here we can see that we're expecting only in October Djuma to have babies, and by this time of the year the babies are almost full grown. You can't actually see that there's a difference, but we've had a second growth spurt, or a second birthing here with these Impala, these East African Impala. Females looking absolutely no different to the Impala that we are used to seeing at Djuma. And just so beautiful. Not that common here, to be quite honest with you. Far more common to see Thompson's gazelle. It's not difficult to find Impala, but definitely not as common as what they are in the Kruger National Park, where their numbers number way over the 250,000 individuals in the Kruger National Park. Here you have 250,000 Thompson's gazelle. There, Impala are definitely right up there. A friend ecologist once told me that a healthy population of Impala means that you don't see them that often, and an unhealthy mix of Impala means that they're everywhere. I think that this is testimony again to how healthy this Mara ecosystem is that you don't find, apart from in the migration of course, you don't find any out of balance animals. And these of course would not migrate. These guys would just be staying around. Oh, very pretty to see. I love Impala. All right, we're going to be moving you across to Taylor, who is busy from the looks of things racing to something or around.
Well, we're almost there. We should be there. It's quite funny how we use our phones. Are those lions there? What's on the road? I can't see. The light is now starting to fade. Is it a hyena or lions? Maybe it's just a rock. No, it's a zebra. Oh. Craig's laughing. This light is terrible and they look so small sitting down. So now I'm just going to keep an eye out on my mobile device. Because a lot of the roads don't have the names out yet. Let me quickly explain what we do. So obviously we're trying to cover and as much ground as we can, but also try and follow the animals for as long as we can so we can see them sleeping, waking up, then chasing after their prey. There's definitely a whole lot of food around here. So it's going to be a very, very good spot. There's zebra galore, wildebeest around every single corner. So now we just need to figure out where the lions are in sort of relation to these herds. And from where my phone says we're 1 minute away, but we've got a zebra crossing. Oh, please. Excuse me, zebra. Thank you. one has decided that it's going to be kind enough to move. Oh, thank you very much. Very polite here in Kenya. Not only are the people friendly, apparently the animals are too. Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon. I hope the three of you don't get eaten because you were kind. Right, let's carry on. Now we're going to search through these open plains now because these lions could be anywhere around here. Now, H. Macy, interesting question. Wondering if I've ever seen a zebra and a wildebeest fight. I haven't. I can't say that I haven't seen wildebeest fighting with each other, and I've seen zebra fighting with each other, but I can't imagine why they would have a sort of a toss-up between the two of them. They sort of work together. We know that the zebra and the wildebeest have a fantastic relationship with one another. We've seen when it comes to the grazing habits. So I'm just concentrating here. Unless they were fighting over something like water, maybe. Who knows? Okay, so I think the lions are here somewhere. I'm going to get my binoculars out. I'm going to do a bit of scanning. And I think we're going to drive off-road and hopefully find them. Steph has managed to find some topi at one of the crossings.
Yep, Main North Crossing. We've just had topi walk right by the camera. Isn't that fantastic? Absolutely not worried about this camera at all. And that was to answer an earlier viewer's question on what animals are bothered by these cameras and what aren't. These topies definitely not bothered by anything. Let's see what else is around, because one topi and two topi are rare. I think there might be more. Let's see what's happening over here if we turn our camera. No, surely there can't be only two topi here. Where did those topi come from? Why are they here? It can only mean something behind this camera is separating a herd. How exciting. Now, I can't turn these cameras fully 360 degrees. At the back of these cameras are the camouflage for the cameras. In other words, we're trying to make these cameras as unobtrusive as possible. And in so doing, we've hidden them in trees and bushes. And quite often that means that we can't turn them around full 360. There's another herd of impala. Not the same herd that we were just looking at now. And a keen observation that I just made now was the fact that there seems to be no male impala. Oh, there we go. There's the ram impala. Now, ram impala in this East Africa are impressive beings, I must be honest with you. Have a look at those horns. Almost double the length of the horns that we find of impala in South Africa and in Djuma. And he is a magnificent specimen. So for those of you who like catching pictures of decent-sized horns on antelope, he is a well-horned male. Let's see if we can get him in profile against the sky for you. Yo. And the reason for that is that because the females ovulate so many times per year because of all the food around, male impala never stop being in the rut, basically. And this basic sort of overabundance of testosterone in their bodies lets them grow, there we go, lets them grow these enormous horns. Do yourself a favor, is take a screenshot of him if you really want to. Save it for a bit, and next time you see Byron tomorrow morning with an impala, you go and see if you can put the two pictures against one another, and you'll see how truly massive these East African impala are compared to their South African cousins. Really cool. There we go. So, Lynn, you've just asked me a question, do impala ever cross the road? But what I'm going to do is quickly answer, cross the river, not cross the road, excuse me, Lynn. What that impala just did there was called the phlegm grimace. Now, you usually see that in a lion, where lions pull their lip up and they make this funny face. In particular, males do it. And what that is a female impala is urinated there. Male licks up that urine, and by flaring open his top lip like that, what he does is he opens up glands in the roof of his mouth called Jacobson's, or the organs of Jacobson, or Jacobson's glands. And he then passes that scent over these glands, which are jam-packed with these little chemical receptors, and he can actually judge the reproductive status of a female. In other words, how close is that particular female to ovulating, giving him the best chance of either defending that female against other suitors or moving on to others, making sure that he doesn't waste any time getting his genes into the gene pool. We see it often with lion. We see it often with wildebeest and zebra as well. It's quite uncommon to see it with impala outside of the rut, of course, in May in South Africa, where they just seem to just go from one urine patch to another. I'll talk about more of that in a second. Lynn, you wanted to know, do these impala cross the river? Lynn, I'm sure that they do. I've never seen impala cross a river yet. They must do. But impala are territorial. This particular impala herd will probably just be living on one side of the river and not the other. Is it unfeasible that they cross the river? No. Would they necessarily do it knowing that they're quite territorial? I doubt that we'll see it as a common thing. I think we're most likely seeing these river crossings handled mostly by the migratory animals. So I think the most common thing that we're most likely to see crossing these rivers would be wildebeest, zebra, Thompson's gazelle, and topi. Although we've seen elephant, giraffe, what else have we seen? Buffalo, all crossing the river. Lion, cheetah, all crossing the river. I would imagine that it's not too long before we show you impala crossing the river as well. Now, in storybooks as a kid, I used to read that impala drift across the hills looking like smoke. And in this particular picture, I think it definitely gives you that impression, doesn't it? And just imagine an author sitting on the bank, gin and tonic, no ice in his hand, dying of malaria, and watching these impala on the banks of this river all those hundreds of years ago, composing books like they did that I then read as a youngster, and which then compelled me to come here and fulfill a dream, really. Right, why don't we go and have a look at some other cameras while we're at it. Let's go back to cul-de-sac crossing, if we could. At this yellow-billed stork, which is busy fishing. They got such funny ways of fishing. You know, we see them quite often over here. Mouths in the water, beak open, swishing from side to side, sometimes using their feet to dislodge debris and to try and chase out invertebrates. And with those herped corpuscles at the end of their beak, telling that bird exactly what it's busy feeling. So not only feeling, but tasting under the water as well. Isn't that amazing? And able to discern weed from insect, from moss-covered log to leftover bits and pieces of zebra and wildebeest. I hope we catch us a fish. Come now. Catch some dinner. You can do it. Catch a big fish. Now, I've watched them doing this where they slowly walk, swishing their faces from side to side. I've also watched them putting their beak in and out of the water. And then I've also watched them swish only from one side. In other words, put it in on the left-hand side and swish to the right, and then take their beak completely out of the water and put it back in again. And I don't know what they're fishing for. I mean, each must be a strategy to try and catch something slightly different every time. And quite difficult to say, actually, what it is. Camera just going in and out of focus there, and that is because we are losing light rapidly where we are. A nice picture of that yellow-billed stork. Let me show you what it looks like. If we can go to the mountain cam, I'll show you what the nighttime looks like here where we are at the moment. That is not the view that I have from our window. Right now, the view that I have from our window is darker than that. This is amazing. These cameras are super. They really are. Let's go and see what's on the hillsides here. Let's see if we can pick up some Coke's hartebeest. They move onto these slopes. They are slope-dwelling antelope, which move off of the plains when the wildebeest come. I haven't seen a Coke's hartebeest in weeks since the wildebeest did arrive. I don't see any Coke's hartebeest. I think these wildebeest have taken over completely. That graininess is, of course, because we are now zooming in and less light is going into the camera than what needs to be. And of course, I just need to fix that by zooming out again. All right, I am told that James Henry is back in his vehicle, fully fueled or fueled up with some more, and is able to tell you what he's been up to. So off you go, and we'll catch up in a little bit.
Be here, David. We don't want to be here. Are we live? Oh, hello, everybody. I don't know why we're live. I know why we're live. I know exactly my problem. My problem is that, well, in order for me to hear Alice, I need to put this into the correct orifice, which I have now done, and now I shall never again neglect to remember that we are live. We're at Dusty Crossing. We don't want to be at Dusty Crossing. We want to be at Cul-de-sac Crossing, where there are rumours of lions. Anyway, that's what's going on here. You'll be pleased to know we've got fuel in the car, and just as I turn the car around, I'm going to show you a magnificent scene of the sky once we're just up over the top of this hill. Alice, please talk to me just to make sure that my idiocy is no longer pervasive on this drive. There we go. Oh, very nice. Siri is back in my ear. Let's stop here and have a look at the scenery. Delightful. Now I'm going to be quiet, and I want you to take a deep, deep breath in. I can hear frogs. Thunder way in the distance. Wind blowing from the southwest. The smell of the grass recently wetted by the rain. And something else. Sounds like something is moving in the grass just next to us. I mean, it'll be a tiny little thing like a frog. But otherwise, all is remarkably peaceful and silent. I say remarkably because, of course, at this time of the year, this place is so busy, full of animals, full of people. Gorgeous. Then the other thing, you know, that we heard last night while we were sitting, David and I, cooped up and camping, was the sound of the river. And I must tell you that that river came up last night. I wish we'd had light enough to go and see it, but it sounded like Niagara Falls or Victoria Falls. It just sounded roaring. And I think we were quite close to some rapids, and I'm sure it didn't kind of come up anything quite like it sounded. But it certainly sounded much louder than it ever has before. And I think there's a bit more water in it today. Not sure how I managed to make that mess. Let's turn around here and head back along the river road. It's much darker than I expected it to be at this time of the day, of course. Oh, Eric the Poet, thank you very much. You say that was an egg yolk sunset. Yes, it is. It is ongoing. It remains an egg yolk sunset, Eric. All right, Taylor's now with those lions, and I think they're going to go on the hunt. Let's head across to her and find out whether that's going to happen.
I really, really hope so. So this is the same group of lions we sat with yesterday, with the two very young males and the one older boy and the one lioness. So very exciting. They haven't actually moved too far away from where we had them. And of course, yesterday we lost them due to the fact that we had to sort of bunker down because of the torrential downpour. But look at what's soldiering in the distance towards these lions, just to the right of, or to the left of that tree. Look at all those wildebeest. And you might even be able to hear them. I'll sit quietly. Oh, there's zebra too. Now that must be a very enticing sound for the lions. Whether they know they're here or not, I'm not too certain just yet. They're still quite far off. Oh my goodness, and then here's a familiar bird that's just climbing up this termite mound. While we're sitting with these lions, we might as well have a look at it. That looks like a black-bellied bustard to me. Are you, or are you there was another type of bustard too. Let me get my little bird book out. Where are you, bird book? Have I taken you out already? Looks like it though, however, as being quite nervous, of course, creeping up onto the top of that termite mound. We know that they like to call out in the open, but it obviously knows that the lions are here, and it doesn't want to get too close to them. However, I don't think that these lions would go for that black-bellied bustard. They're past that age of being entertained by birds, especially when there are lots of wildebeest and zebra around. I'm sure they'd rather go for something like that, but just being careful anyway. Good idea. I'd probably tiptoe around lions like that too. Well, that's actually what we do if we spot them. Maybe we're going to have a territorial dispute here, Craig. I want to just show you another. The lions aren't doing much. They're just fast asleep. You see down below us, there's a sort of black, looks like just to the right of that termite mound. I'm trying to reach a little bit more to the right. No, not so far out. There we go. Go the far right-hand corner of your screen. You should be able to see something just to the left of that tree. Okay, if you zoom in and go down a little bit. Okay, now zoom center into your screen. It looks like there's another bird. Is that another bird? It is. There's a couple of them around. Very interesting. And yeah, they do look like black-bellied bustards too. We see them in the south as well. And of course you see the red-crested korhaan, and they were calling down in South Africa at this time of the year. It'll be nice to hear the black-bellied bustard call, that champagne. I can't do it. We need Herbie. Herbie does that call the absolute best. I, of course, need some practice. It's not as good as my pill-spotted owlet call. There, the zebra coming this way. Mr. P, you're wondering if I've ever had a pet bird. Yes, I have, actually. Birds are my first love. In fact, before I even knew elephants, I've had, don't you hear, then I'm going to tell you my birds' names now. So my first pet I ever had was a budgie. He was blue, and his name was Simon. He was wonderful. He used to follow me around all the time. He would even say things like, I think I can't even remember what he used to say, but he used to mumble things that my mother would shout at me on a regular basis because I just never listened as a kid. My second bird then was a budgie, also blue. His name was Sammy, lovely as well. He used to follow me around, and it was so great. Walk around on the floor, and he'd sit on my shoulder. He'd go everywhere with me. And then the last bird I had was a black-headed conure, and I recently told a couple of you about him. He was beautiful. Unfortunately, he was in a massive aviary, and the other birds attacked him, and he lost all his tail feathers and couldn't fly. So I took him in, and then I ended up having him I think I had him for about 10 years. He was such a lovely bird. The same thing, you used to scratch him in between his wings, and he'd roll on his back. So yes, I've had many strange animals. Even for my 18th birthday, I got my first hamster. Can you believe it? And the thunder is rumbling again in the distance. Please don't come this way. We don't want any thunder. You can see it's quite dark and gloomy, and on the other side, seen as though James is talking about the sunset, I think we should make a spectacle of it, because ours is not quite. What did James call his sunset? He described it as egg, the color of an egg. Oh, a viewer, not James. So it's one of you out there said that you described it as an egg yolk sunset. I don't know about that, but it is beautiful anyway. Different from last night. A lot more orange in the sky. Obviously, there's clouds all the way around, and I just see these massive embankments of clouds just coming in all around us, and I hope that we don't get surrounded, because I think that it could get quite exciting tonight with the herds literally and the rain surrounding these lions. Now, we know these lions don't like rain because they up and ran away. Last night, they disappeared into the drainage line and we couldn't follow them. So hopefully, they're not going to do the same thing. Maybe they'll just seek shelter underneath. What am I even trying to say? Underneath one of these shepherd's trees is what I'm trying to get at. But I think they're getting used to my loud voice now. I suppose I'm desensitizing them. Wildebeest are still louder than me, though. I'm very disappointed to admit that. I did try and be louder than the wildebeest the other day, and unfortunately their good news made my voice disappear, which is unusual. and not particularly common. But they're still resting up, rolling around. I don't think we need to get too excited just yet. But there's a young lioness. I think that's her. Yeah, it looks like her. Doing a bit of a stretch, showing her very white belly and all her lovely spots that she's got going down her legs. Let's see, we just need one to sit up and show some interest in something around here. And then the rest should follow. But the lovely light on those lions now too. It is beautiful. The last bit of the golden light. Oh, Jenny, you said that these are very pretty boys. They are. They will be too. I mean, they're still fairly young. Got quite a bit of growing to do. But I think they'll turn out into a lovely boys. Their eyes are a lovely color as well. I don't know if any of you have noticed it. Now, I don't know what it is, but most of the lions that I've been seeing have all got these beautiful sort of dark amber eyes. I've only seen a couple that have got golden eyes, and it really is so stunning. It's actually a little bit scary, I must say. It almost looks like they've had the life sucked out of them. They're just about black in color, but stunning nonetheless. Let's see. I wonder if the sounds of the gnus and the bleating zebra has caught the attention of anyone just yet. But look at that pose. That's a funny spot to lay. There's lots of rocks around here as well, so I do hope they move out of this area. It's just because we're on a slight little incline. There's a big yawn and a stretch, and it's not great for maneuvering, especially at night when it's nice and dark. So hopefully they move out of here quite quickly. Makeup girl, you've said that her feet are so big. Yep, typically lions' paws are. You wouldn't want to get a slap across the face from one of those. It would definitely hurt. Now, lightning I can see in the distance, and as I'm scanning around, I'm trying to think like a lion right now. Who are you going to go for? Which group of wildebeest are you going to go for? The ones that are calling in the distance. There we go. She's spotted the zebra now. That's what she's looking at. The zebra that were behind the black-bellied bustard. That's what she's seen. Are you going to go for them? Because there's also some wildebeest sort of walking in your direction. Now, they need to be careful here. The grass it's okay. It's fairly long. But don't stand up too much, girl, because zebra have got good eyesight and they will spot you, and then your plan will be foiled. I would rather go for the wildebeest. The wildebeest are going to, I think, come straight over this rocky area if they carry on in that direction. And the zebra, that group of zebra and the wildebeest are an equal distance apart from one another and from the lions. So it is the young girl now. She's the one that's showing the most interest so far. Right, we're going to stick with these lions, I reckon, for the rest of the evening and see what they get up to. I'm going to send you across to James, who's got one last view of the African sunset.
Well, the sun is gone, but the sunset we still have. Isn't that gorgeous? There we are. Magnificent. Peaceful sky that we have. And one does sort of, perhaps, I do anyway, hope for a peaceful evening for those wildebeest and zebra, but I don't suppose that's what they're going to get. I suppose they're going to get quite the opposite if they keep walking the direction that they are. I think our plan now, we're going to head along the river road, see if we can't find any further lions along there. And if we can't, then we'll head towards where the Agamas were, or possibly up onto the escarpment to see if we can't find the sausage. But in the moment we have a beautiful little buffalo calf, and as I've been saying since I got here, I think being a buffalo in the Mara, far better option than being a buffalo in the Sabi Sept. Much more variety for the lions to eat in much greater quantities, and so much easier for them to escape the attentions of the many prides of lions that we have around here in this area. Good. Let's carry on. We'll drive gently along here through this herd. Enjoy the sights of the sun. All right, I believe that Stefan has managed to find himself a spider that is spinning a web.
I've found a spider spinning a web for the evening, and it's just proving near impossible to try and follow 100%. But there you go, you can see it moving over there. Trying my best to keep my movements nice and slow. But this spider would be spinning an evening web. Not all spiders keep webs all the time. A lot of these spiders only spin webs either during the day or during the evening. And this is obviously a spider with an evening spinning web. And there you can see her coming back. Very deliberately placing web and silk alongside another one as well. There's 3 of them on this particular. There you can see that spider over there, just dangling in the middle. And see if we can get this one in better focus. There we go, got it in better focus. Go in a bit tighter. And that spider is in the hope that the nocturnal insects, the insects that fly around this river system in the evening, will then be brought with the wind currents into the web. Isn't that cool? Philip, you asked me if I'm on a bushwalk. Next best thing, Philip. I'm actually sitting about 10 miles away from this particular camera on top of a mountain 300 meters or 300 feet above the Mara River. And I'm lucky enough to have all these toys in front of me, which is allowing me to find what we're looking at right here. I have no idea what spider this is. What I do know, though, is that they are treating us to a silk spinning episode here, which is quite nice. And we can see them. Doesn't look like they're spinning the usual orb webs. It's very difficult to see what's going on. They're definitely using wind currents to get their silk to attach to the grass around them. And then, as you can see, that silk is pulling tight now and pulling the grass stems in different directions. 168, you wanted to know if these spiders are poisonous? No, they're probably not poisonous. While I don't know all of the poisonous spiders or venomous spiders in East Africa, these definitely are not. I mean, they don't exhibit any of those usual characteristics. Mainly the web-spinning spiders that are underneath flat living or parallel dark surfaces are the ones you've got to watch out for. That little flash that you saw there is from a lightning storm over the river. Isn't that just quite cool to see? And it perhaps is a good time to let you know that there's a difference between poisonous and venomous. Venomous is like a spider or a snake, an organism that produces a toxic substance that they then need to inject into you through fangs or a sting. Being poisonous is when your body tissues are actually toxic. So you'd need to chew and ingest that particular organism or plant to get the toxin in your system. There's a slight difference between venom and poison, but nothing. It's just semantics, really, at the end of the day. KR, you want to know what are spiders' main predators? I would say other spiders, possibly. Birds, potentially. Definitely. Lots of things eat spiders. You know, the insect world is a vicious, violent world where there is no quarter asked for or given whatsoever. By comparison, larger mammals have it blissfully easy. We're in a different level of heaven compared to most insects, to be honest with you, and that includes all the insect predators as well. I mean, wasps will quite often catch spiders like this, sting them, paralyzing them, not killing them, and then take them to their nests, where they put the paralyzed spider in a mud cocoon or a paper cocoon, lay their egg on it, and then the wasp's larvae hatches and eats the spider alive, so that the wasp's larvae doesn't have a putrefying carcass while it's growing up. How's that for horrible? Could I ask that we go to Dusty Crossing, if you don't mind, from these fantastic spiders that we're watching? There is a storm raging over the Mara, and if we're lucky, we're going to catch some of the lightning in that cumulonimbus cloud. Right, let's just give it a second or two before we decide to move on to something else. I'm fast running out of light over here between my spiders and everything else that I have to look at. And of course, I don't have any artificial light. There we go, a small flash. Come on, give us a big flash, please, please. Just before we lose all functionality on these cameras. As you can see, it's starting to get very grainy at the moment as the night descends. It is completely black outside my office at the moment where I'm sitting, so I wouldn't be able to see my hand in front of my face. That is how much, that is how good these cameras actually are in the dark. Isn't that amazing? Completely different to how I have it on this side, absolutely. Wow. Probably just take a moment to enjoy that scene, really. Right, why don't we go and have a look at cul-de-sac crossing? We've got a pod of hippo that are busy getting active. And hippo, they become active at nighttime. What they do is they come out of a stupor that they go into, really, that they're in during the day. And you can see one opening up that massive mouth that it has. Basically, they get themselves ready now to go feeding. Oh, brilliant flash of lightning. And they go feed on grass. They don't mind if it rains and lightnings at all. They go feed on grass. They eat almost all of the grass that they need, which is a good sort of 100 pounds or so for a full-grown hippo. Another one opening up his mouth nice and wide. Let's see if we can get you a picture of the storm and a hippopotamus having a yawn at the same time. They open up their mouths, or they feed on almost all the grass that they need to in about 4 hours or so, and then they return to these ponds and puddles and eddies in the river, where they spend most of the day out of the sun, coming out of the water to suntan from time to time. They're not like crocodiles and lizards. Oh, awesome lightning strike. They're not like lizards and crocodiles, which need to actually effectively control their metabolism with the environmental temperature. They just come out of the water to warm up and then go back in again. Have a bit of sun tanning going on. Let's see if we can get you another one. You can see the wind is howling out there. I pity James and Taylor tonight, and Scott a bit later on tonight. I think they're going to have another storm. Last night they spent up to 3 hours, I think, was what Taylor spent cooped up in her raincoat. And when she came out, the lions that she was sitting with, hoping that they could hunt with, had disappeared completely. And they had to go and find some others. Oh, that is just very pretty. An awesome scene. These cameras are such a treat, to be honest with you. You know, it's pitch black out there. We'd never be able to show you these pictures if we didn't have these cameras out there. You can see the wind starting to come down the river valley, that ruffling of the water there at the moment. Another flash of lightning. Let's see if we can get another big strike. Come on, Mother Nature. 2 or 3 days ago, we had the most beautiful rainbow outside the mountain cam's view. It's just lovely. If we go to main south camera, you'll actually see that this is just a localized storm cell. Main south camera has there you go. Now you're looking in the complete opposite direction to where we were just with cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac, we were looking north and east. Now we are looking into the west, and in this silhouette of the sun, top left corner, you'll see all the insects, those spiders that we're busy building their web for, hoping to catch. Just look at the multitude of insects. As soon as those spiders are finished with their web, they will be stringing their snares out to catch those insects. Oh, that cloud of insects has disappeared. Shows you. There, just is visible there again on the left-hand side, made up of mosquitoes and who knows what else is making it up there. If we go to main north, we can still see that spider that's busy spinning its web. It is very black, so I'm just going to warn you now that we may or may not be able to see it. And I see the wind is now. You can see that web has completely made the grass taut on the top. And 1 or 2 spiders. There you can just see that spider still. Furiously busy trying to get its anchor lines in. Can you imagine being in that trampoline while this wind is going on? Flashes of lightning in the distance. These cameras are really spectacular, aren't they? Alright, now we can either go back to main south with the sunset, or we can go to Dusty Crossing, which has that lightning storm on show. And while we're waiting for my comrades to just get their rain covers on and get themselves protected, and who knows what else, we can reminisce on the day. We had the most fantastic crossing today, to be quite honest with you. It was quite sad. It was probably the most disturbing crossing that I have witnessed out here yet. A zebra was caught by some crocodiles, and a big crocodile had bitten into the back of the zebra without killing it or drowning it, and then they disemboweled the zebra, and it was really difficult to watch. Usually these massive crocodiles pounce on top of these zebra and drown them fairly quickly. It's very uncommon that we see a zebra being eaten alive, but today was one of those crossings where we saw it. But, and this is where it was most amazing, is a healthy zebra with no prompting, barring the distress calls, came wading into the water, chest deep, and right up to his suffering mate. They touched muzzles with one another. I think that the healthy zebra was seeing if he could help in some way, saw that it was a hopeless case, turned around, came back again, and had a face-off with a crocodile, and then waded into the middle of the river and went to go stand there calling, almost as if it was taunting the crocodiles, acting as bait. Come and catch me and leave my friend alone, before wading back out and joining the rest of the herd. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. Never even read about it. It was a truly spectacular display of bravery from something that we don't really associate bravery with, or cognizant thought or anything like that. That was a beautiful lightning strike, wasn't it? Fantastic. As I said, it is pitch black outside my office at the moment. There's no artificial light or infrared or any capacity on these cameras whatsoever. And all that they've got at the moment is just that view and that beautiful thunder shower. All right, why don't we send you over to, I think you're going over to James for an update, although it might be Taylor. I just missed that link.
You're with James, everybody. We've changed the camera to the great low light machine that we use, and that is why you will not see me anymore. Many of you will be relieved. Many of you, well, one or two may be sad about that. Now we've come to an area called the Hippo Pools, where there were rumors of lions earlier on. I see no lions, but you might, if you listen very carefully, be able to hear the pitter-patter of yet another storm that is coming through here after the long rains ended in June. My foot. Anyway, let's just sneak a little bit forward. The driving shots will be jerky slightly, simply because this is a very special camera that is great for low light, but is very different from the one that we normally use for our driving. So we'll just pop across this side. I want to look down towards the Hippo Pools, is known as a very good drinking spot. Not for human beings, for animals. I suppose people drink here sometimes as well. And often these lions lie in ambush in the bushes just either side of the crossing or the drinking spot. You see how I used the word ambush and in the bushes in the same sentence there? David, you saw that, did you? That's what I thought. All right, let's look around here. Let me take my spotlight, turn the car off. It's now starting to rain again. I don't see any lions. You see any lions, David? Phew, did you see the lightning? A comment from Darlene: if it rains, I'll have to do my rain dance. No, the rain dance is entirely in order to bring rain upon us. I'm just thoroughly tired of bringing rain upon myself at the moment. So no, we won't be doing any rain dances, Darlene. I'm just trying to drive gently along here, shining the spotlight from side to side, to see if we haven't missed anything. And then we might go back to the Agama Pride and see if they aren't up to no good with that wildebeest herd where they are. Now Taylor's got herself into a great position with the lions she found earlier this morning, so that's very exciting. and with any luck they will hunt shortly. The crossing cameras, if you're wondering, I'm sure Steph's probably told you, he's done a lot of the show today using the cameras, or the crossing cams, but they, of course, cannot operate in the low light. They don't have little people standing next to them with spotlights shining hither and yon. We have me for that, don't we, David? And I wondered if there were any comments on my long philosophizing about the wildebeest. Were there any, Alice, or did everybody think, what does that idiot have talking about? Oh, well, somebody said I was like a South African David Attenborough. That was extremely exciting. Much more exciting. Taylor's lionesses are on the hunt.
I am so excited for this young lass. She really is an incredible girl. She's shown so much natural instinct, which of course these animals have endless amounts of. She's jumped up. She's also heading in the direction of the wildebeest. Now, welcome to everybody who has just joined us on this live broadcast. We are watching. There is a pride of lions, can you believe it? But there's one lioness that has decided to take up the lead and lead the hunt. She's walking straight in the direction of a herd of wildebeest. There's a couple of zebra in and amongst her too. I'm just trying to figure out. I can't even see her anymore. We're in infrared. She sat down in the grass. She's trying to conceal herself. It's very, very dark out here. It is incredible. Now, I must mention, lucky to be witnessing this because we are the only ones out here. No one else is allowed to drive around at night except us. So we're bringing you this footage, of course. Now, if you've got questions for us, you're more than welcome to ask them. You can comment away. And I'm hoping if this lioness continues what she's doing right now, she should be able to creep up to them as close as possible. There are another 3 lions, one older male and 2 youngsters about the same age as this lioness. I would say about 3 years old, maybe a little bit older. And they don't seem to be as keen as her, but I reckon that they're on their way. They wouldn't have sat down for too long. They don't want to leave her on her own. Now, I've actually sat back just a little bit just so that we could watch from a distance and watch this whole thing unfold. You also might be able to hear the thunder in the distance. There's lots of lightning. There's also a little bit of rain coming in, but I think we should be all right. The clouds above us are still quite high. The rain is in the far distance pouring down. She's getting closer. Look at her posture. See how she's dropped her head? You can barely see her. I can tell you right now, those wildebeest don't know she's there, and she's very lucky she's got the wind. Don't smell her coming. They're not going to hear her coming either because of it's quite rustly out here at the moment. Now, Philip, you're wondering at what point in the evening do lions become dangerous? They'll be scared of us. Not that you want to run over and try and touch a lion. That's obviously the wrong thing to do. At night, you've obviously got to be very careful. They probably look to us as humans as slightly different. There we go. Let's see. Wildebeest are running straight towards her. They don't know she's there. They're panicking, and this is what she wants. Look how she's going to sit and wait. She's going to wait for one to make one error and come towards her. They don't know she's there. Look at her, she's deciding. She might not even go for this group. She could say, let me go for another one. Let's see, she's going to make a dart for it. No, she sat down. She's crawling slowly along. Don't worry, there's another set coming straight towards her, though. I think that the zebra and the wildebeest, they're heading towards the escarpment now. Who is she going to go for? It doesn't matter whether she catches a zebra or a wildebeest. That'll be a very good meal for 4 lions. She's thinking, she's planning her next move. She doesn't have a lot of energy to waste here, so she needs to make sure that whichever animal she's going to go for, that it's the right call. See, she's unsure, standing up, sitting down. She might change her mind again. See how she's scanning around? If she can see an animal that's injured, she'll probably go for that. It's an easier meal. Also means she won't be using as much energy. It also means that the chances of her getting hurt will be less. Now, Liz, you're wondering if I have any idea as to which pride this is. I'm not sure, unfortunately, Liz. It is the same group that we did see yesterday. If you watched the one of our safaris, we actually had them. We had them this morning too, and it consists of the small group is this young lioness, 2 younger males of the same age as this female, and then an older boy too. There are so many prides and lions in this area, and they're all constantly breaking up too. I haven't seen or actually really heard of many super prides within the Mara Triangle. They all seem to be smaller groups, but that's okay. There's so much food around from at the moment. You don't need to have 20 lions in a pride. Just a couple will do. Now, those flashes of red that you're seeing, those are the bolts of lightning striking the ground, and that's actually perfect hunting weather for a lion. So she's got the wind, like I said, that's hiding her scent. It's also hiding her sound. The thunder is doing exactly the same thing. Look at all those animals. They're just streaming in, completely unaware that she is even around. I think she's going to move into the thick of it. What we might do is we actually might move up ahead slightly. Let's do that because she's getting away. There's the lightning that I was telling you about. So I'm going to try and get a little bit further ahead. I don't know where she is. Like I said, it's very, very dark. We've got fantastic cameras that allow us to view in low light as well as the infrared. So what you're seeing, I can't even see. I'm looking at my monitor watching this. So that's how lucky we are. I'm going to turn my nose again now in hope to spot her. Might actually have to quickly use my spotlight to see if we can find out where exactly she is. Where did you go? Where did you go? This is the hardest part, is trying to find her, but we were getting too far away from her, and I was worried that the cameras were going to stop picking her up. She's in here somewhere. She's quite close to these wildebeest, Craig. Was she more this side? Not closer to... We've just lost her, but this is it. This is the hardest part. Where did you go? Where did you go? The grass is so long here. It's so difficult to find her. Just scanning. I'm scanning around. She should be here somewhere. Now, Liz, you're wondering if lions ever get trampled this way. Let me move again, Craig. Most certainly, Liz. It's the easiest way for a lion to die out here. You can imagine when you've got a couple of thousand wildebeest and zebra running towards you, they're panicking. They don't know what, of course, to do. They're just trying to not get eaten. And yes, a hoof to the face of a lion could break her jaw. She could get hooked by a wildebeest's horn. I think she's up here somewhere. Craig, did you manage to see whereabouts she was where you were last filming? Just trying to find her again. Like I said, I couldn't see anything. I could not see where she was. So was she this side? No, she's still on the left. I thought that she maybe swung around. It wouldn't surprise me if she changed her movements. Marco, you say wow, wow, wow. There she is. Got her again. Okay, I'm gonna go jump off road. I'm going to go in a little bit closer. I've got her eyes. She's still quite a distance away from those wildebeest. Sure, she's sneaky. She's changed direction just slightly, which obviously, she's in there, Craig, if you can see with my light, just walking. I'm going to take it away from her so I don't give her position away. I'm also just shining so I can see exactly where I'm going. Rain, rain, go away. Don't pour down on us today. She's moving quickly now. I'm going to sit tight in just a couple of feet. Just want to get the perfect spot so we've got the perfect experience, but also that she's got a fair chance of catching her dinner. And I think this is going to be the spot. I think this is where we're going to hang tight. So when it's torrential rain, they don't necessarily want to be in it. But it's not uncommon for animals to get struck by lightning. I've actually seen, well, it's 2 cases of giraffe being struck by lightning down in the southeast coast of South Africa, though. And of course, they're tall, so they're vulnerable, but it can happen. It's not something that you can sort of exclude. And I think it makes them panicky. It's windy. They can't hear what's going on around them. They can't really smell the sense of swirling. So they're definitely on the edge as is. But she just changed her route slightly now. See all the little shrubs that are starting to pop up? I think she's going to use this as cover. She's watching where she puts her feet. She doesn't have to be too careful tonight. She's lucky she can move quickly like this. Normally, if it's a still day, the lions and leopards and many of the predators, they'll make sure that they move as slowly as possible, because one wrong move, stepping on a leaf or a grass, could give her presence away. Velia, you've said she's in good shape, most certainly. She's a very healthy looking cat and she's a keen huntress. I haven't yet, I'm actually going to scan while you're watching. I haven't seen the eyes. I see them. I see the boys are coming this way too. She's just dropped down, that little bit of a drainage. So the boys are on their way too, but they're too far away for now. We won't be able to see them, but still 3 sets of eyes coming towards us. Look at that, that's the lightning again. So there's definitely a big storm brewing. Avery, you say that the suspense is killing you. I'm sitting on the edge of my chair right now. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I can't even get my words out. I am so excited. You see, oh, she's so lucky. She honestly has got the best chance this afternoon. Wow. Predators, including the leopards, are exceptional when it comes to waiting around and making sure that they have the perfect opportunity. You can see everyone's a little bit nervous. The zebra trotting off every now and then, the wildebeest hopping into a canter. She's got this bit of a drainage line that she can use to her advantage, and it's not going to inhibit us catching up to her, luckily. We can jump on. There's a grassy 2-track, so we should be able to race over there. But I think that we've got quite a good spot here. I'm going to just scan again behind me. I want to see how far away the boys are. Very lucky. Obviously, we don't want to put spotlights on the animals for too long, especially when they're hunting like this. I only used mine just to try and relocate her and out here in the wildest of places in Africa and watch a lioness. And hopefully the boys are going to catch up to her shortly and give her a bit of a hand, because she's going to need a hand. And we're not interfering whatsoever. So they can go about their day.
Is in a bit. We're going to be playing you some playbacks that I want to show you while everyone else is getting ready for the evening. But those milk gourds, basically, those ones, I can't get my hands right, but these ones here in the corner over there, they shoot an arrow into a cow's jugular artery. They then fill the milk gourd with half blood, half milk, shake it up and drink it. And that is all these warriors live on for 10 years. Can you believe it? All right, we have got a playback to show you while my comrades and friends get ready for the evening. And so we're going to do that, and then I'll narrate over it and show you what we saw at some point over here. So let's have a look and see what that looks like. And we're going to be going to it right now. All How amazing was that? Those were two different crossings. I know that the banner there said earlier this week, but they've been happening over the last couple of weeks. It was just a bit of a slip of a banner button that came off there, but two different crossings. What was very interesting, and in both cases, the zebra managed to escape. The first zebra, which had been caught by the tail by a crocodile, managed to get its feet under it, and through just a great sheer effort, pushed off of the ground. The tail actually snapped off, and the crocodile was left just with a mouthful of tail, and the zebra walked off with a stinging bottom, I'm sure, but with nothing else much wrong with it. The second crossing, the one that was coming towards us, not away from us, had a crocodile lying in the rapids where a young foal managed to walk up to the crocodile, right next to the crocodile, and walked over it. Now today, while we were looking at the show, we had a crocodile, we were discussing binocular vision, and I think what happened over there was that foal ended up walking behind the crocodile's line of sight. It was focused on other zebra. All of a sudden, this foal came out of nowhere and tripped over it. And if you were to be caught by a crocodile, and since I've watched that crossing, I've thought of very little else. If I were to cross over a rapid and there were some crocodiles lying there, where would I most likely cross? Well, I'll tell you what I'd first like to do is cross when it's coldest. I think I'd choose the coldest, chilliest part of the day when crocodiles are all not doing much, and I'd cross then. I'd then sprint from a hidden position as fast as what I could and make it across an area where I could wade through the water in as shallow a depth as I can. And secondly, if there was a crocodile lying there, I absolutely wouldn't get near its business end. I would try and aim for just behind its body, across its body. They don't seem to like that. And on all the crossings that we've seen over the last couple of weeks and days, zebra generally tend to make it when they go over the back of the crocodile, not anywhere near that snappy mouth, which can spin from side to side and snap at those animals. And so those were two just lucky crossings. Today, unfortunately, we watched a crossing where the zebra wasn't so lucky, and it was a sad thing. But let's carry on with all James's artifacts. So those milk gourds that you are seeing there, they basically are used by the Maasai warriors, like I said, who will eat nothing but milk and blood for 10 years while they wander through Maasai land, as they call it, and protect the family and the tribal homes. Next to it is a rolled up sleeping mat. That is a mat made from the skin of a cow, and that is what people will carry around to sleep on it, or to sleep on. This over here is a board game that is an ancient board game. I've watched kids play it all over the place. This is one that is transferable, but in the hills on the banks of the Limpopo River in the Kruger National Park, there's actually one of these carved into the rock of a rock massif close to an old and ancient village. And isn't that amazing? Then we've got all the way across there, let me turn over and show you there, we've got a hippo skull, which is split in half, and you can see how truly massive those canines really are, and those incisors, those peg-like incisors that they use to stab at one another, and use those slashing canines to hook up at opponents using their mouths. Their necks, in actual fact, are all just the muscles in their necks, all designed for that slashing upward motion that the hippo do. And none of those front teeth that you can see in any of those skulls over there, except for the row of molars. Let me see if I can get my finger there. There. Except for that row of molars are used for eating. That is used for eating. These are used for slashing, and those are used for puncturing and slashing at an opponent. Isn't that the most amazing thing? Eh? Now, what we can have a look at while we're busy waiting for James and Taylor is a thermal lion hunt. Now, we very kindly have the use of a camera from a company called FLIR, and they see in heat signatures. So what we're going to be doing is going over to a hunt that is now in progress with a FLIR camera, and have a look at this. Look at that. Isn't that the most amazing thing? There are some lions. You can quite obviously see the lions just running into the wildebeest herds. And I think what they're trying to do is look for the weakest of all of them. We've seen it quite a few times now in our nighttime hunts, where we have lions running into that mass of wildebeest. Today you saw the wildebeest with James and with Taylor, and you just saw the sheer number of them. To pick out a weak link, or to pick out something during that in that chaos at night would be very difficult. So what I think happens, and I'll discuss two different strategies here. I think the first and the most obvious strategy would just be to run into a herd of wildebeest and see what wildebeest shows signs of distress. The second one, and the one that I think is more successful, is to wait in the grass and wait and circle around the back of the wildebeest and have one of your friends chase the wildebeest towards you. We were watching Jamie the other night, and it was early in the morning. I think it must have been between about 11 and 1 o'clock in the morning. And Jamie was out. She was in the dark, and lions started to chase wildebeest towards her car, and she was watching a male lion. And in about 10 minutes, one male lion killed 7 wildebeest, full-grown wildebeest. He was jumping from one to another, and all he did was he lay down flat in the grass. He waited for the wildebeest to run towards him. And then with a sea of wildebeest, and I'm talking about thousands of wildebeest in front of this male lion, he just pop up and jump on a wildebeest and tackle it to the ground in the pitch black. These wildebeest were running around all over the place. He'd then kill it, and he'd just move on to the next wildebeest. And he was just going wildebeest after wildebeest after wildebeest. In the end, Jamie had to leave the sighting because the wildebeest actually ran into her car. And can you believe it? And that was just too much. Being in the middle of some chaos like that, it's a stampede. You know, we've got open cars here. You've seen what these cars look like. And what could happen is a wildebeest jumps into the car. I doubt it. All right. Now, why don't we go and have a look at a wildebeest herd and see what we've got to offer you on that. And I'll see what I can show you. Oh, that is a nice shot. That is wildebeest from the hot air balloons. That is wildebeest from a car. And just have a look at them all coming towards you. Isn't that just fantastic? That is the brindled gnu. Another helicopter here, what I'm saying. Another balloon shot. These hot air balloons out here are just the most fantastic thing. There on the short grass plains around the Talek region, where Scott has been spending a lot of his time with that coalition of cheetah. Now, it's quite interesting, this Mara ecosystem, to be quite honest. We on the, we are on the western side, and we're on top of an escarpment that's about 300 feet high, about 100 meters high off of the plain. It gradually slopes down to the Mara River, which is about 5 miles or so, 5 kilometers, 4 kilometers from here or so, and then it gradually goes up again into a series of rocky hills on the other side of the Mara Game Reserve. And there's a couple of rivers that come out of this game reserve, a couple of valleys that come out of that side of the game reserve, at least anyway, but that is where the wildebeest come in from and come first too. And that particular area, I think, because of the underlying rocks, at least anyway, has a different type of grass. It responds very well to the not only to the direct sunlight that we have on the equator, but also the amount of rain that we have here. So there's a lot of good grass growth. But I think because the soil horizons are not as deep as on the alluvial plains that we have right here, the grass is more prone to overgrazing. And what happens is the grass goes down to very short, almost like a golf course lawn. You'll see it if you watch Scott. And James was there around there this morning. Scott is off on that side because those short grass plains are the favorite for Thompson's gazelle, and of course cheetah love Thompson's gazelle. But in the last picture of those wildebeest, what you did see was them standing on these very short grass plains, and that's what this is going to turn into in the end. When I first came to see the migration, it was in 2008 was the first time I came to see the migration. Absolutely astounded. But I came in behind the migration. I came into northern Tanzania in 2008, in September of 2008, and I ended up staying for 2 months to see what is happening. And we ended up traveling to the back end of the migration, which just so happened to be just on the other side here on the Tanzanian-Kenyan border. And I could see the herds, couldn't get into the herds, but I could see the herds. But traveling behind the herds was a vast amount of zebra, Thompson's gazelle, few wildebeest, massive amounts of hyena, massive amounts of cheetah. And I'm just wondering if now being in front of the herds, we're going to see the same thing this year. I'm told that it becomes the herds, which are now quite diffused across the Masai Mara Game Reserve, start to coalesce and start to concentrate again as the food resources get lower. And then what happens is they all decide to move. So as soon as it starts to rain again further south, there's no more food left here, and they all move further south back into Tanzania, which, of course, on the plains, the Serengeti lava plains around Ndutu, which is where they're going to have their babies, there's a lot of grass growth that happens over there when there's a lot of rain in the area. And so basically what happens is that these wildebeest go from areas of feeding to other areas of feeding, and behind them trails this vast amount of animals. Now, a lot of people who come and visit this particular area think that when the migration goes, there's no more animals left here. Well, I can tell you one thing. Having been behind the migration for 2 months, and that ended in October, and there were still thousands, tens of thousands of animals in October, and having come to this area again in January, I can tell you and everyone out there that the myth that there's no animals here outside of the migration is absolutely false. The heads per hectare, which is how we judge what animal densities are here for large mammals, at least anyway, is way, way above what we find in the Kruger National Park. And now, of course, comes the question, what do we do? How do you compare the two? Are they similar? You know, if you're planning a holiday coming out here, you know, what would make you go to one place or another? And I think that the easy answer is there isn't actually. The Kruger National Park is much more diverse from a biodiversity point of view and a landscape point of view. It's a very long reserve, 400 kilometers long, whereas this particular reserve is wide and very different from east to west. The Kruger National Park is very different from north to south. But of course, Crows is a whole bunch of different ecozones basically, and will change the animals that you see as you go from north to south. East to west, you're just changing, my opinion at least anyway, going across valleys. Now, we have prepared another clip for you. We've got a very special partnership with Governor's Balloon Safaris, which some of you may have joined us on. And one of the clips we're going to be showing you now is some footage that we've taken from Governor's Balloon Safaris.
The Masai Mara is one of the world's most evocative wildernesses. Floating above the river and plains at sunrise is an experience that feeds the soul. Hanging silent at the mercy of the wind, the extent of this natural wonder sprawls boundless in all directions. From the ceaseless twists of the Mara River to the verdant forests on its banks, then further to the red oak grass plains that support the abundant herds. From the air, the drama that is the Mara plays out on an epic scale. The bird's eye view shows the enduring will of prey. And the never-ending tenacity of predators. Life and death, captured from above.
Wasn't that the most amazing montage of clips about those balloon safaris? It is honestly one of the most special things that you can do out here. And you have access to areas of this particular reserve that you couldn't even walk to if you wanted to. But first we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which was that lion hunt that you saw. The zebra crossing the river, crocodile just missing the zebra making it up the bank, and then seeing that there were lions there and then moving away from those lions. Wasn't that just the most amazing hunt sequence that you've ever seen before in your life? For me, the most special thing about that particular hunt was the fact that the zebra felt the crocodile was there, kicked out and caught the crocodile, and then moved away from the crocodile. Crocodile, a bit stunned, didn't quite know what was going on. Zebra moved up, got to the top of the bank and realized that there were lionesses there. And what they immediately did was the zebra then angled away from the lionesses. And I don't know if you noticed, but the zebra ended up putting its rump to the lion, and every second or third step, while it was running, give this massively vicious kick out towards the lion. In the end, unfortunately, it didn't help the zebra whatsoever, and the lioness managed to do this rolling tackle on the zebra, and then another lioness came and joined. It was the end of that zebra, but it was a heroic effort from that zebra, and noteworthy. Its death would definitely go down as one of the most spectacular kills that I've ever seen in my life. But what you did see what you did see about that is the fact that you saw that there was a lot of forest that those balloons were going under. Now, that forest is one of the rarest forest types in this particular area. It's called oldwood forest and is made up of a collection of trees that really only grow on the alluvial plains around the Mara River. And with the Mara River snaking and winding its way through this environment, this is the last patch from where the river enters the Mara Reserve all the way to where it crosses out at the Tanzanian border. But before it gets to Serena, it's literally just 20 kilometers or so. This is the last patch of this forest that you find. Now, it's not uncommon for forests to come into and out of being. Of course it's not. On a geological time frame, deserts become forests, forests become ice caps, and ice caps become sand deserts again, all in the space of millions of years. And so it's not uncommon for forests to move. But in this particular area, we don't see that forest. You can get close to it with the road, but you can't get into it. And the only way to really see it is from the tops of those balloons. And isn't it just the most spectacular place to see? Just hippopars, when you're over it, you just see hippopars, catching a glimpse of the backs of elephant. Quite often we see leopard inside there, lots of nesting birds, all the vultures that you see in actual fact go and roost over there in the forest. It gives them some lift in the early mornings, and really the balloon safaris are the way that it goes. Governor's Balloon Safaris, incidentally, are the only balloon safari company that can go over the Mara, over those forests. It's got something to do with flight plans and all that sort of thing. And of course they've been going over here for, I think, more than 30 years. And so it's one of the oldest balloon companies here as well. So a very nice partner to have, and I must say, I feel quite spoilt to be able to go on that balloon quite often, and we feel privileged and able to put a camera up there and share some of those views with you in any case. Now, it is raining outside, I must be honest with you. It is pouring over here on top of the studio and on top of the Agama, or close to Agama Mara, and on the Olololo escarpment where we are. It's probably very isolated. I mean, I could walk out here now and see stars shining above our head with the rain that's still pelting down. The rainfall here is just unbelievable. It's been a pretty hot day. I haven't been outside too much. This has been my cave for the day, albeit with one of the best views that is out here. And what we are doing is looking forward to a night of hunting once the rain stops and Taylor and James can get their rain covers off and get moving again. I'm sure that they're going to be filling us in with whatever they've got with these Facebook Lives. Now, I know the show's coming to an end. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who made this possible, and of course to you, our viewers, who just carry on supporting us the way that you do. Thank you very much, wherever you are. Please have a fantastic evening, a fantastic day, and we'll catch up with you either on the Facebook Lives or on tomorrow morning safari.